Welcome to Branded Worlds, a transatlantic dialogue, where branding meets culture and sustainability is the thread that ties it all together. Hosted by Jeff Solomon in the US and Stephen Baumgaertner in Europe. This is where global brand stories come to life, with purpose, people, and perspective. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts on how brands can better integrate culture and sustainability. Subscribe to Branded Worlds for more insights and inspiration, and let's build a future where brands truly make a positive impact. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Branded Worlds, the podcast where we explore how brands, people, and ideas connect to shape the future of our industry.
And today, Jeff, we're diving into a topic that's no longer optional: sustainability, transparency, and responsibility in apparel.
And I am super excited about our guest today because I love Ryan and his team. And Ryan represents a company that is challenging how garments are made, sourced, and valued. It's Allmade. Woo!
And it isn't just about t-shirts. It's about rethinking the entire supply chain, from raw materials to factory conditions, and proving that better products can also mean better outcomes for people and our planet.
So today we'll explore what it really takes to build a responsible brand in a competitive, complex global industry, and what it means for the future of promo.
Shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, so Ryan, let's talk a little bit about origin and purpose. Allmade started with a mission, not just a product. Can you take us back to the beginning? What problem were you trying to solve, and what made you believe the industry was ready for change?
Well, thank you, Stephen and Jeff. I actually started in the screen print side of the industry, helping screen printers grow and start and then grow their businesses. So we got to work with hundreds of thousands of print shops over the years. I've been in this industry for about 25 years-ish or so, and this is Allmade's 10th year. So throughout the course of doing that, first of all, as a I grew up screen printing, and for my band, I never liked the shirts that were available. They were like rough and just didn't make great prints. And as we started to help more and more decorators and screen printers be successful, we realized that a better canvas or better shirt is going to make a better print, ultimately be a better result. They're going to be more successful. Their customers are going to be happier. And so just starting to learn more about how shirts are made, and then always kind of have this idea like, oh, what if we could get together with screen printers and make a shirt for screen printers? But that never really came to fruition until we met our first partner, which was a Global Orphan Project, who was also a screen print customer. They had a nonprofit in Kansas City called GoX that creates jobs for people that are coming out of the criminal incarceration system. So they wanted to upgrade some equipment, and they also had a t-shirt factory in Haiti. The shirt factory in Haiti was called Allmade, or not Allmade, it was called Life, and it's where our first Allmade product was made. But this guy walks up to me at a trade show looking to buy equipment, but also trying to tell this story about making t-shirts. And their whole focus was started with the Global Orphan Project, taking care of orphan kids. But they realized in a lot of these developing worlds, a lot of these developing places where we actually make garments, orphans aren't a thing really from a family perspective. They have a family that can take care of them. It's more of an economic situation. About 80% in those developing countries, again, a lot of which where we make apparel, are orphaned because their families can't afford to take care of them. So they wanted to create jobs instead of orphanages. And one of the jobs they created was a t-shirt factory in Haiti. They invited me to come see it. I kind of made them a bet that if they would, or not a bet, but I made them an agreement that if they would invest in our company and get some of our screen printing equipment for their shop, I would then go see their factory in Haiti and see what they're all about. And once I was there, I was like, whew, this is crazy. I'd never been to an area of the world that had so devastated by both the environment, economical, it was just weird. It was a life-changing experience. And they were still operating orphanages, and they still do operate orphanages. But again, they've tried to switch this mission to, and they've done a really good job of job creation. So seeing everything from a kid and being with these orphan kids that actually have parents to going and seeing like them as teenagers working in this factory and their parents working in this factory, and being able to have enough economy to take care of the kids was a very compelling reason to actually start the Allmade brand. And so that was 2016. I took that trip, and the first thing was like, how many customers do we start with? How, what kind of styles do we make? And I was like, well, who's better to know that than our customers? So I went out and my first goal was to find 12 screen print customers to go out and like help build this brand. And the reason why there was 12 is I was having a conversation with Joe Nittig, who is the CEO of Global Orphan Project. And he was telling me about the story of 12 print shops in England that got together and they didn't have the money to abolish slavery, or the political ties, but they had the media, the print media. So they got together and they decided to like put a campaign to abolish slavery. And England was one of the first, I think it was the first country that did that. It was just 12 print shops. So we're like, well, we also have print shops, so we can do that with t-shirts. And so a couple months later, we brought back 12 shops to Haiti, and it was wild and crazy. And we wanted to get a very diverse group of people, and it was a very diverse group of people, but came up with the Allmade brand, the Allmade logo, the mission, and everything there on that trip.
So basically, you're celebrating 10 years now.
10 years, yep.
10 years. Wow.
10 years, and it didn't start with sustainability. It started with more responsibility, and that responsibility on the people side of things. We knew we wanted to make a great quality shirt that we loved printing, and we knew we wanted to take care of people that made it and prevent orphans, from, being disowned from their family, essentially. And so that was really the core tenets. But one of our founders, Roger, was also very involved with the environment. And we're like, well, if you're doing all this stuff that's good, how can you not make it from better and more responsible materials and make it in a better, more responsible way? So that was a mission that I'm still, and all of us are still on, of like learning how to make things more responsibly from an environmental perspective. And a very big part of our brand.
Yeah. How do you keep that mission in scaling up the business? So I think it's easy to have such a mission in the beginning, to find 12 print shops, and everything is easy or might be easy. But how do you do it today? So how do you keep the mission from the very first day? Or it might changed in the last couple of years a bit to a better side, or maybe not a better side. I don't know. But how do you keep that mission and the promises you made in the beginning?
Well, we didn't necessarily start out with the core tenet of only using recycled or organic materials. In fact, the shirt, that's the number one Allmade shirt off the line. That's a cotton shirt, standard. I call it chemical cotton, but it's just standard conventional cotton, because that was our first shirt that we launched. We ended up discontinuing it, I think, after the second manufacturing run, because as I started to learn more and our team started to learn more about the impact of the cotton industry and the impact that it has on our world water systems, the use of water, the use of chemicals, pesticides, and herbicides that go into it, and the use of the impact on the farmers. Like, well, we got to start using organic cotton, like only, or transitional organic. And so we quickly changed. There's a really good book that our co-founder had us all read called "Let My People Go Surfing." It was the Patagonia story, and it's an old book, but I was like, wow, it's such great information on that. And so I don't think you can make a fully sustainable shirt, because a fully sustainable shirt's a shirt that's never made, And so, and I think the most sustainable shirt's the shirt that lasts the longest, that is currently out there. So if you, like Jeff got that shirt, what, a year or two ago?
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, if you still looks like it's in great condition.
Well, believe me, Ryan, I have many of your shirts that are 5, 6 years old when I first started working with you that I still wear. So Allmade, it's a win line.
Yeah, I think over 80% plus of the environmental impact of a garment is after it's sold, after it's actually, it's the wash, wear, throw away cycle. And so if that shirt washes better, lasts longer, doesn't get thrown away, that's the biggest impact it can have. But the biggest impact our industry has on the world is in the manufacturing process. So by using responsible factories that treat the workers great, that treat the environment great by using less water, energy, efficient solar, carbon neutral, and then by using materials that are not taking things out of the environment and putting chemicals back into it. We're just using either recycled or organic. You're able to really cut a lot of that front end off as well. So just the journey.
Um, what I've seen, you're super open about your supply chain, from recycled materials to ethical manufacturing. You just mentioned it's all about this, and it's part of your journey. What does true transparency look like in practice, and where do most companies still fall short in your thinking and in your what you have experienced in the last years? Because it's getting more and more, it's getting mainstream, let's say. Everyone is talking
Yeah.
about we are super ethical, we are the best ones,
Everyone
we're
says
super
that.
transparent,
Sustainable.
and sustainable, whatever sustainability is about. But so where do you think you are? Allmade I would not say better, because that's the kind of finger pointing, but where do you think others are still not as good as you are?
Well, the very first thing is that being hands-on screen printers, you get hands-on with the garment. You get hands-on with the ink, you get hands-on with the process. So that never changed with us in the garment world. So we wanted to get hands-on with our supply chain. So we went before we even went to our factories in Haiti, we went to see how the fabric was made, in the Carolinas, and we went to the organic cotton farms in Texas. And we went to Reprieve Recycling in the Carolinas to see how the recycled water bottles were created into fabric. So being on the ground and seeing where your materials being grown, how people are treated there, what is actually happening on site, going into the knitting and spinning and dyeing process and in those factories and going hands-on with your team in the factories that they're cutting and sewing in, sitting down, eating lunch with them. How do you like your work? What's the actual work environment like? That is something that a lot of multiple factories I've been in have said, like, why do you want to eat lunch or why do you want to eat lunch with the workers? Like that, we've never been asked that question before. It's like, well, why wouldn't you eat lunch with your team? And so it's something that I think is very, very important. And you really don't, you can have all the certifications in the world, but if you don't know what what's happening on the ground level, if you don't go to the source or go to the Gemba, as they call it in lean manufacturing, you don't really 100% understand. So that's what sets Allmade apart a little bit.
It's funny because I did exactly the same 20 something years ago in Vietnam, with our main cap supplier. And I asked him, hey, I want to have lunch with you guys. And he was like, why? Why the hell? Don't talk to them. And I want to talk and I want to eat with them. And he
Yeah.
was like, okay, why? And I was like, because then I really understand how do you treat them? And if they are happy, they're doing a great job. And he was totally surprised about it. But yeah, so it's cool that you're also doing the same. And I think it's so easy. And I did it in Turkey and all wherever we have been with our factories. I did exactly these easy step into the factory, also to give us a kind of a face to the workers, that they're not only viewing something for us, it was always they did it for us. So it was because they had a face, was the naming of the company, and that made our life much easier in the past. But that's cool
100%.
that you're doing exactly the same. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, a lot of us got Allmade tattoos. So when you're walking around the factory, like they'll see that tattoo and they realize like that's the hundreds of thousands of tags that I'm sewing on and recognize it. So it's pretty cool because again, I got to take my dad with me on the last factory trip a year ago in Honduras, and he started crying because it was every year you go, people recognize you more and more and more. And this last time was crazy. People were jumping up and down and clapping, and it was awesome.
How many factories do you have? Is it just
So we
just
work
a
with a group.
few, or is it also getting more?
Allmade is wholly distributed by Samar, and so Samar also Samar Canada. So we work with their essentially the Samar supply chain, which was an amazing opportunity that we got in 2019, and we're able to solidify right before COVID hit, which was so fortunate for us, because also where we were at in the current time, our factories in the Carolinas, they didn't unfortunately make it through COVID. They have shut down, and Haiti's still operational, but it's been very, very, very start and go because of the political environment. And so we were very fortunate to partner with them and work with their supply chain. One thing that they brought to the table is the environmental responsibility of how you actually use resources in your factory. And so solar, water usage, huge, huge things. So we work with a group of factories in Central America called Alcatex, and partners of Alcatex. One of them is called Cottonwise. And then we work with a group in Pakistan that we just started making our fleece in. And then we work with a group in Southern India. And so those in India, we do all our organics, and that's like farm to shirt. So a very close knit supply chain, knowing where exactly your cotton is grown. India makes the best cotton in the world, I think, maybe besides Egyptian cotton, but it's too expensive. Like the supply chain of Egyptian cotton is just too expensive to make into bulk shirts. So it's the longer staple, really, really fine cotton, and goes directly to the factory, goes directly to knitting, goes directly to spinning. I mean, spinning, then knitting, then cut, then dyeing, and then, cut and sew. So it's a really close supply chain. So yeah, we're in those 3 countries. And then we just opened up in Pakistan, which I haven't had the opportunity to go to. It's been a little bit, we were scheduled to go to, and then some stuff started happening in that part of the world, which made it a little more difficult.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Really great stuff. Well, let's touch on sustainability versus business reality. There's always this tension between sustainability and cost. How do you balance doing the right thing with staying competitive in a price driven industry?
And it's something that we have struggled with, because at first, I think in order for it to make sense economically for the bulk of people, you're always going to have people that are going to buy sustainable no matter what. And they don't care how much it costs. But so those are like your true, but it's a very, very small percentage, especially of the buying populace. I believe our goal is always to be within 10% of a conventional option. So when you're in the store and you see organic bananas and organic bananas cost 74 cents, non-organic bananas cost 69 cents, it's kind of a no-brainer. You're just going to buy organic bananas, and so and it's unfortunate that it's even a thing. I know in Europe it's a lot different, especially with food and things of that nature. But, here it's like the bulk purchase is such a thing, and you just have to be within a reasonable price frame to get some of those bigger orders and to really start to move the needle. And so to do that, you got to try to make things in bigger scale and then for lower costs. And to do that, you have to balance out making sure that you're still doing that in an environmentally friendly way and taking care of your people. Like, so it's a vicious cycle that it's like chasing thing. Like, we really struggled with quality on some of our products throughout the years, because trying to get the cost down, then the quality can potentially suffer. So right now I feel really good about where Allmade's at from a good quality perspective and a good price perspective, being within 10%-ish of those major brands that have a comparable product, and then having a really good quality product that prints great, wears great, lasts a long time, washes great, doesn't need to get thrown out.
Beside quality, beside pricing and all that stuff, storytelling and brand impact is getting more and more relevant. You've just shown your tattoo. So that's also, for me, it's a kind of storytelling. So in promo, products are often seen as commodities, but Allmade clearly positions apparel as something more meaningful. How important is your storytelling in helping customers understand the impact behind your products?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to know more about, like, the more you know about a product, the more you can connect with that product, and then the more it becomes a part of you, and you end up retelling that story. And so the first kind of story that we really stuck to with that resonated with our audience was like the recycled water bottle story. and that it was an easy one to understand. Like Jeff's shirt has 9 recycled, water bottles in it. It's not as more, it's A, there's a lot of recycled water bottles being used, B, like polyester itself is a contentious fiber that is used because it doesn't biodegrade. So whether it's recycled or not. And so those two things, we've tried to transition our story to more carbon neutral, more organic, more recycled of cotton. And those have been harder stories that we're still trying to figure out how to tell. I think one story that really impacts people is the human story. And one thing that our founders have said, like Dom's one of our founders, he's like, the environment's long tail. You can make a change today, and you might not know how that change is going to affect the world for years or decades. People are here right now, and you can make a change today that affects their lives, affects their kids, and so that's one thing that's also extremely important, is to take care of the communities and the factories and the places which they operate in. And so those types of stories are a little bit more up. So it's balancing the story of like people, like taking care of, like we're doing a fundraiser right now, going to Honduras. We sponsor 2 homes called Osabi Homes, a boys, girls home and a girls home. And we have always gone to these orphanages, even since for the last 10 years, but we just would go play games, maybe leave a few things and then leave. And so 2 years ago, Mel, who's our marketing leader at Allmade, she's like, why don't we actually try to make a lasting impact on their lives every day? So instead of just showing up and then leaving, having fun for a day, and then maybe coming in at 6 months later or a year, well, let's change their home. Let's give them new beds or give them a new kitchen or new washing and dryer machines. So we've been doing these fundraisers to help do that. And it's been extremely impactful because we had girls that have never had their own bed before. We've had girls that they've spent hours a day manually washing, bright white clothes, and now they can spend that playing sports, or they can spend that learning, or, we got one a computer because she wanted to be a graphic artist. And so it's those types of changes are immediate. And then the environmental stuff but it's all about how to tell the impact of what you're doing, both immediate and then long tail, and then weave that into, or knit that into, the story of your product.
Well, I've got to say that I get a little sensitive about this stuff, but Allmade is they're really brilliant at telling the story. And I encourage you follow their social media because they're all over talking about what's happening in Honduras and always about how the product's being made. I mean, and you guys, Ryan, seriously, and shout out to Mel, Lucy, Laurel. You guys are brilliant storytellers, and that's so important. Is we're trying to educate people about why sustainability matters. And if you can have good, lively storytelling, it's helpful for sure. Okay, so as we wind it down, let's talk a little bit about the future of promo. Looking ahead, what do you think the apparel industry is going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, it definitely seems like quality and responsibility are moving into the more mainstream of promo, and that's a really good thing. Better, more unique products that are made better, and then the ability to make those in a responsible way, whether that's how they're made from a people perspective or whether that's what they're made from, is a conversation that is being talked more and more and more about, which is awesome. And that was one of our goals in Allmade, is to raise that level of the conversation. And so the tricky part, and you mentioned this earlier, is that there's a lot of brands that will use the words, and then they use a word just to hit that word, and then you dig into it, and it's like, oh, well, they're still using chemicals on that cotton, but it says it's sustainable because it uses less water, and so it's the tricky part of really fuller transparency and understanding the impact numbers of what you're doing. And I think that's one thing that Allmade has really tried to bring to the forefront. We have an impact calculator that you can go and you can see our fabrication. You can go to a comparable product and see what's the actual impact of this product from water savings, from, carbon emission savings, from plastic recycling savings or cotton recycling savings, and what's that actually doing versus a comparable product versus just saying you're doing it, And so I hope that as this responsibility movement continues, we really are more transparent with the data so people are able to make those wise decisions. And so you can go and choose a sustainable product if you want to, or if you want to invest in that, more about what that actually is. But
Cool.
at the end of the day, it's less, the word brand fill. It's less of that. It's less stuff getting thrown away. I've always used the coffee industry as an example of something that I hope that our industry can continue to move forth into, because 30, 40 years ago, coffee was a commoditized product and the farmers weren't taken care of. Prices were extremely low and the end quality product was shit. But now, like, if you look at the coffee industry, it's a higher end industry. And we look at it from the eyes of the US and North America. Stephen, I think the more global we get, Europe's done an amazing job of, like, a lot of these things they're not even questioned in Europe. Like, oh, we're just going to go buy an organic cotton shirt, or we don't put chemicals in our food the way that maybe it's done in the US. So I think as we start to become a more global market, taking on some of those European practices, because I think coffee's always been really good in Europe. Like, we didn't have that in the US, it was just a commoditized product. So I think, and then Starbucks, the whole thing came from the European coffee model. And so it's like, as we start to understand and share those practices, we can rise together as a world, especially in developed countries, and then make sure as we're working in our supply chain, which are in developing countries, we're doing that in a responsible way as well. So.
Very nice, very nice. As we're coming to an end, crazy enough, 30 minutes. It's super fast always. Give us a little advice where to start the sustainability journey. What is maybe the super hack from your side? Because maybe you've also heard in the last years it's not that easy. Where should I start? How can I do it? So is there one advice or maybe a few advices where you would say, okay, go for it?
Yeah, I think understanding it, like, whatever your core product, if your core product is garments, or your core product, there's so many different resources out there to really start to understand what the impact of what we do does. So books, audiobooks, documentaries are a great place to start, and just becoming aware of that. And then as that reality sets in, then finding a good partners to really invest in, so that you don't have to look for options. You have your go-tos, and those go-tos you can trust their supply chain, and you can become a part of their supply chain. See if you can visit the factories with them, or see if you can understand more about, ask for pictures, become more involved with that. And we take people all the time to our factories still. And it's a very important part of what we do, because again, if we can help them, no better place to develop the story than doing it yourself on the ground, and so you have the opportunity to do that. It's life-changing and industry-changing.
Wow. Well, so as we wind it down, thinking about the next generation of leaders in promo, what responsibility do they carry when it comes to building a more ethical and sustainable industry? I do believe this next generation gets it way more than my old people's generations. That's exciting what could lie ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really excited for the future as, we continue to go forth, and there's so much happening in how things are being done, from the manufacturing to AI. AI is changing a ton of stuff, from the design that we put on garments to the way the garments are made, and robotics. So it's going to be a crazy next 5 to 10 years for sure. And this is such a old cotton is one of the oldest industries in the world, and it's changed the world multiple times. The entire industrial revolution was because of the cotton gin, and so we're at the forefront, even though we think of it as a not a super like technology forward industry, because it's so old and it's so manual, so much of it's so manual. We're still at the forefront. And so it's going to be exciting to see. There's a lot of opportunities for young leaders to disrupt and to do things differently.
Wow. Well, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us and all you're doing to push the industry forward, not with just the products, but with the purpose. And I know it's deep. It's really sincere with you guys because I know you guys personally. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, and thank you both for talking about this and having this as a platform to make, better quality promotional products and have an impact with every sale.
Also, from my side, super interesting. Thanks a lot for your time. This conversation is a reminder that real change doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with people willing to rethink existing systems. You just mentioned disrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody can follow Branded Worlds wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and stay tuned for more great conversations with the leaders who are shaping what's next.
And finally, as always, keep creating, keep connecting, and keep building your own branded world. Thanks. Bye bye.